Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 2589 Artificial Planet 1. The artificial star was rotating slightly, its surface shimmering like water from time to time. With each shimmer, a beam of crimson light would fall, performing an archiving and restoration on the shattered mechs on the ground. The principle behind this thing is similar to what Ling described. He said in a low voice, "The real Matrix is on another level. What we're doing now is just a projection." "Then what are you going to do?" Liu Karen asked. "First, cut its network cable, so it can't be revived." After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he pushed his hands outwards. The black vines suddenly stopped simply binding the warship and began to transform. Their ends split open segment by segment, like black hands that pressed directly onto the hull of the warship. This is the most troublesome aspect of divine refinement. It can not only cut, but also drag. After it pins down its prey, it will drag the prey directly into another dimension. As long as I drag them into my alternate dimension, I will sever their connection with the outside world, and then they will be unable to be resurrected. Zhang Yi said with a cold laugh. The airships had clearly never encountered this kind of fighting before. It tried to increase its thrust to pull itself up and create distance, but for every meter it pulled away, more black vines would emerge from Zhang Yi's shadow, as if they were tying sandbags to it. XIN. Shoot it with an arrow, and see if this thing can resist rule-based abilities. Zhang Yi summoned his god-tier support. Yang Xinxin's figure immediately appeared from the shadows. The enormous floating warship had already been firmly bound by Zhang Yi's divinely refined black vines. It attacked desperately, but unfortunately, all its attacks could not shatter Zhang Yi's myriad forms. Instead, they were in extreme pain from being entangled by the almost endless black vines. The next moment, an enormous dimensional gate opened in front of Zhang Yi, stretching across the space like a heavenly gate. There are no coordinates of this world inside, nor are there any control signals from that artificial planet. Any signals that go and will be swallowed up. Once you're inside my space, don't even think about reverting to a previous save. As he spoke, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The airship struggled violently in the air, its entire hull spewing out energy. A ring of extremely sharp energy gears rose from its deck, like a protective saw, attempting to shred all the black vines that had entangled it. But the essence of divine refinement is not entanglement, but binding. Even if it's cut in half, the remaining half will hold it down tightly and drag it through the door. At this moment, the divine refinement fused with the eternal sword of judgment, and its resilience was enhanced to an unimaginable level. This makes the whole process look very strange. A massive mechanical warship, large enough to flatten a city, was forcibly pulled into an invisible door by a person who didn't look particularly tall, using a clump of black vines. The two were struggling, and Zhang Yi was having a hard time dragging it, which is why he asked Yang Xinxin for help. Yang Xinxin first glanced at the huge floating warship, and after observing it for a while, she decided to make a move. She slowly raised her right hand, and strands of black puppet threads spread out from her downward-facing palm. Immediately, boundless black mist spread around her, and from within the black mist emerged an enormous, fallen angel whose body was pieced together from tattered fragments. Fallen puppet. Its body looks incredibly twisted, yet when it draws its bow and nocks an arrow, it exudes a sense of explosive power. The bow of judgment was taut, a jet-black Hersher's arrow was nocked, and then it was fired at the floating warship. The warship sensed the approach of the special energy body, and its tremors became more violent, while its attack on Zhang Yi became even more ferocious. However, its body was unable to escape Zhang Yi's divine refinement in a short period of time. So it changed its strategy, and thousands of energy cannons formed a dense barrage in front of it, trying to intercept Yang Xinxin's arrows. But those are rules, not physical arrows. Therefore, The Hersher's arrow bypassed the dense barrage and hit the floating warship directly. Memavirus, interference. Now, you belong to me. Give up the fight. Yang Xinshin gave the order directly. The meme virus began to infect relentlessly. The moment the arrow struck the floating warship, dense mosaics appeared on a large part of the warship's surface. This was Yang Xinshin's reconstruction of that area. Boom! A violent explosion rang out, and the floating warship broke apart. The warship's core artificial intelligence detected the contamination and actually severed its own body. A large section of the warship's hull was separated and fell downwards. Yang Xinshin's gaze turned very serious. Ancient civilizations have indeed far surpassed us in their research on superpowers. Even combat-type mechanical life forms have ways to deal with various superpowers. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinshin exchanged a glance, both feeling incredibly shocked. This is just an unmanned, floating warship, and it has obviously been dormant for many years, with its surface becoming rusted. It's unimaginable how powerful a Martian civilization would be at its peak. Let's continue,
Zhang Yi said.
Yang Xinshin nodded and continued the meme virus offensive. Yang Xinshin's ability index is 48,000 points. Although she has not yet reached the knight level, with her intelligence and ability characteristics, her combat power even exceeds that of most white knights. Especially when paired with Zhang Yi, he can provide Zhang Yi with excellent support. With combat strength equivalent to 2 knights, dealing with this floating warship wouldn't be too difficult. The two worked together seamlessly, with Zhang Yi blocking all attacks from the front of the floating warship, and used divine refining to control it, giving Yang Xinshin the opportunity to create meme virus contamination. The airship struggled desperately, but was hit again and again. In its repeated attempts to sever its tail to survive, its body was soon reduced to only 2/3, with most of its outer attack modules and defensive armor having fallen off. The artificial celestial bodies in the sky, witnessing this scene, visibly experienced a moment of disorientation in their light. It fired another beam of red light downwards, attempting to repair the warship. However, the crimson light was sucked into the edge of the netherworld gate halfway through its journey, like water being poured into a black hole, without even causing a ripple. The power of the netherworld can erase everything in the material world. Gradually, the floating warship began to sink into the alternate dimension. Really? Luke Heron called out softly from the shadows. Once you pull them into your area, they won't receive the resurrection command. So this is the only way. Zhang Yi increased the pressure on his hand. The floating warship was finally dragged entirely into that dimensional gate until it disappeared. Chapter 2590, Artificial Planet 2. The red light continued to shine down from the sky, but there were no longer any corresponding targets below. The beams of light only left blank, high-temperature craters on the ground. The mechs on the ground kept jumping up, like fearless insects, rushing up in waves. However, this time Zhang Yi did not choose to destroy them. Arrest them all. The divine refining rapidly disintegrated in midair, then continued to disintegrate again, eventually weaving into a vast network of tens of thousands of vines that bound all the mechanical life forms. Their struggles were completely futile, and they were all eventually dragged into the other dimension by Zhang Yi. The moment they entered the alternate dimension, the eyes of those mechanical life forms immediately lost all their light, as if they had died. Zhang Yi frowned. He found this scene very strange. In principle, mechanical life forms will not die even if they enter another dimension. It seems that their actions are controlled by some kind of external central mechanism. This world is really interesting. Zhang Yi looked up at the sky, but the giant artificial sun floating on the horizon in the distance did not react or launch an attack on him. It's a bit inexplicable. Zhang Yi doesn't quite understand the rules of this world. He flew to a point several thousand meters above the ground, looking down at this still, lost continent. These mechanical life forms are not guards, but maintenance programs. They are controlled by the central hub, and only by severing their connection with the central hub can they be completely killed. Lu Karen analyzed from within his shadow that Zhang Yi had sent several mechanical life forms into the shadow, and she had already quickly begun studying them. Moreover, the level of intelligence here is a level higher than that of the Songyuan clan. So, you see? Zhang Yi looked up at the still twining star in the sky, his gaze gradually turning cold. True civilization lies at a deeper level. This is just the outer shell, the way they present themselves to others. He paused, then smiled. That's more interesting. The sea returned to calm. The city remains frozen in time. The open space was littered with shattered mechanical debris and a spatial rift that had been forcibly torn open, proving that the battle just now was not an illusion. The myriad phenomena of the universe spread out around him again, hanging down like a cloak. Let's go. He said it very casually. Let's go in and see what secrets Mars is hiding. Zhang Yi didn't rush to wander off again, but instead turned to look at his own shadow. Karen, it's time to go to work. The shadow rippled outwards like water being poked, and Lu Karen's figure emerged from within. She was wearing those somewhat exaggerated engineer glasses on her head, holding a stack of translucent energy sampling plates in her hands and several egg-shaped detectors hanging from her waist, looking like she was about to dismantle a spaceship at any moment. As soon as she came out, she exclaimed, "Wow," and turned around in the open space of this still world. This place is so cool. It's totally like a home port-level hub left over from before the Great Migration of civilization. Her eyes sparkled, clearly already imagining what it was like back then when thousands of mechanical ships took off and landed here. Zhang Yi reminded her, "Don't just stand there watching the excitement. It's time to get to work. Test the energy response in this place and investigate the distribution of resources. We're here to mine." "Oh, okay. She immediately abandoned those fancy tricks, spread out the sampling plate, and several detectors popped off their tripods with a click-clack sound. She tossed them in all directions, and after landing, they automatically opened their hemispherical sensor covers and began scanning the energy levels of the surrounding space. The entire inner world fell silent. The resurrected machines were dragged into Zhang Yi's alternate dimension, leaving only the wreckage he had created on the ground. Occasionally, a metal plate or two would return to its original position, but there were no truly aggressive actions. Lu Karen squatted on the ground, her fingers flying across the holographic screen. Her expression suddenly became serious, and she completely entered her research maniac state. Let me tell you some good news first. After a while, she looked up, glanced at Zhang Yi, pouted, and looked very smug. The energy network of this world has not been completely cut off, which means that the core hub is still operating, but at a minimum power consumption. Zhang Yi nodded. That's why it has that beam resurrection function. Right. Lu Karen raised a detection plate high and slammed it down on a positioning point in midair with a smack. Dozens of energy curves immediately lit up on the plate. Moreover, this resurrection command didn't originate from that artificial planet you just saw. That was merely a relay station. The true source. As she said this, she raised an eyebrow and looked into the distance. Over there. Zhang Yi followed her gaze. It was a seemingly empty horizon. A very flat, smooth horizontal line, as if measured with a ruler, separates heaven and earth at that line. But after staring at it intently for 2 seconds, he discovered that behind that empty space, there was actually a shadow. It's like a needle standing upright in a very, very far place. Have the coordinates been generated yet? It's out, but... Lu Karen looked at the screen and pouted. These coordinates aren't very reliable. How so? It has 2 values. She wrinkled her nose. Normal space should only give me one set of 3-dimensional coordinates, but this gives me a set of reachable coordinates and a set of observation coordinates. Zhang Yi chuckled. You even differentiate between internal and external networks? Almost. She herself was amused, but her eyes brightened even more. It means you can see it, but you can't get to it. What about energy reactions? The energy reaction is off the charts. She raised her wrist and pushed the projector upwards. An extremely dazzling ball of energy, like a firework placed on a black screen, exploded with a bang in the projection, and all the data columns jumped to high-risk red. "This is the kind you like," she deliberately exaggerated, saying, "The energy density is almost on par with the heart of a planetary engine, and it even has an outer shell of regular energy. If you can bring this thing back, Tianhai City will never have to worry about energy again." Zhang Yi stared at the mass of data that was almost white with red, his eyes narrowing. "Okay, let's go take a look." As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed Liu Karen, stuffed her into the shadows, and then opened a dimensional portal in front of him. Following the coordinates Liu Karen gave him, he quickly traveled in that direction. Here we end today's chapter. I hope you liked it. Kindly do also subscribe to my gaming channel. I have to Fina a way
Alright,
to
that's
survive. Thanks.
today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises.